Good day everyone, I am Marvelo G. Ubena, and this video will explain to you what is the fiscal functions, basically the fiscal functions to the government and its four major functions. And now, let's get started. Here are the objectives. First is to define what is fiscal to economics. Second is to enumerate the four major fiscal functions. And the third is to explain the difference between the four functions.
Now let's define what is fiscal. It is something related to finances or a public revenue. An example of fiscal is a family budget or a fiscal plan. Another is that it is also all to do with government taxes, public spending, and government debt. Government revenue like a taxation, debt into savings, borrow, and print money. For this government spending, it is also a revenue expenditure and capital expenditure.
First, let's have the allocation functions. The resource allocation refers to the way in which the available factors of the productions are allocated among the various uses to which they might be put. It determines of how much the various kinds of goods and services will actually be produced in an economy. One of the most important functions of an economic system is the optimal or efficient allocation of scarce resources so that the available resources are put to their best use and no wastage are there.
A variety of allocation instruments are available by which government can influence resource allocation in the economy. For example, government may directly produce the economic good, for example, electricity and public transportation services.
Next, we have the distribution functions. The distributive functions of budget is related to the basic questions for whom should an economy produce goods and services, as which it is concerned with the adjustment of the distribution of income and wealth, so as to ensure distributive justices, namely the equity and the fairness.
Adjustment of the distribution of income and wealth to assure conformance with what society considers a fair or a just state of distribution. The distribution functions of the government aims at redistribution of income to achieve an equitable distribution of societal output among households. Second, advancing the well-being of those members of the society who suffer from deprivations of different types. Third, providing equality in income, wealth, and opportunities. Fourth, providing security for people who have hardships and ensuring that everyone enjoys a minimal standards of living.
Next, we have stabilization functions. The stabilization function is one of the key functions of fiscal policy and aims at eliminating macroeconomic fluctuations arising from suboptimal allocations. The government fiscal policy has two major components, which are important in stabilizing the economy. First, an overall effect generated by the balance between the resources that the government put into the economy through expenditures and the resources it takes out through taxation, charges, borrowing, and etc. The second is a microeconomics effect generated by the specific policies it adopts.
Stabilization policy is a strategy enacted by a government or its central bank that is aimed at maintaining a healthy level of economic growth and minimal price changes. Sustaining a stabilization policy requires monitoring the business cycle and adjusting fiscal policy and monetary policy as needed to control about changes in demand or supply.
And now let's have the economic growth. This is the last functions of a fiscal to the government. First, let's have the effect of a fiscal policy upon the rate of growth of a potential output must also be allowed for. The fiscal policy may affect the rate of a savings and the willingness to invest and may thereby influence the rate of a capital formations. So the capital formation is turned on affect productivity growth, so that the fiscal policy is a one significant factor in economic growth.
Alright.